Welcome back. 4 more funerals were held today for victims of last week's school massacre in Florida. Classmates of those late students have taken the helm of a push to prevent another mass shooting in America. Today, many are traveling to the state's capital, Tallahassee, to demand changes to the state's gun laws. Tomorrow, President Trump will meet with students and teachers at the White House to discuss solutions. He spoke about the meeting earlier.
We must do more to protect our children. We have to do more to protect our children. This week, I will be holding a number of discussions with students, local leaders, and law enforcement. School safety is a top priority for my administration. We must move past cliches and tired debates and focus on evidence-based solutions and security measures that actually work and that make it easier for men and women of law enforcement to protect our children and to protect our safety.
The president also said he directed the Justice Department to ban gun modifications like bump stocks. A bump stock was used in the Las Vegas massacre. So, Kimberly, you have 100 students traveling 400 miles from Parkland to Tallahassee. They've got a walkout schedule March 14th. Then they've got a big March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. on March 24th. What do you think about the young people taking the lead here?
Well, look, I'm always encouraged when I see young people expressing themselves and getting involved and caring about the community and getting involved in terms of, legislation, the laws, and a movement like this. I have no problem with it. That's why I love this country, because everybody's able to express their viewpoints and do so in a way that, is safe. So to let them do that, why not? Let them express, and as long as also, that they're listening to both sides and equipping themselves, with the facts and all the information, I think it's a healthy reaction.
So Jesse, Rush Limbaugh says, hey, these students and this march looks like a bunch of Democrats to me. What do you say?
Well, I hate to disagree with Rush. I don't know how he can prove that. I think you don't want to make policy based on someone who's just lost a friend to a deadly mass murderer because they're 17 and incredibly emotional. They have very noble feelings about this issue, and I think their voices need to be heard. At the same time, I think the conversation we had the other day was really helpful. We talked about training students. We talked about arming guards at the school. We talked about enhancing funding and manpower at the FBI. I mean, look what happened here in terms of preventing the next tragedy. No one shared information. Yeah. The FBI dropped the ball. It wasn't really about the gun itself at all. I mean, people use handguns. Handguns are much more deadly in these cases. So I agree with what President Trump said there. It's not about name calling. I've heard students name call. That's not going to help anything. I've heard people on the right name call. Let's just talk about evidence-based solutions. And I think the bump stocks ban is a great start. And I'm looking to do something more with background checks.
Right. And in fact, that leads me to the question for Dana. Dana, the president says he's spoken with John Cornyn, the Republican from Texas. He's also apparently speaking with Chris Murphy, the Democrat from Connecticut, which is where Newtown happened, about more extensive background checks. What do you think? Is this something that could get past the NRA?
Well, I think that if it's being introduced by John Cornyn and has him at the helm, then yes, I do.
Yeah.
And, when the president talked about at the immigration meeting with that bipartisan group that day in the cabinet room, and he said, I'll be willing to take the heat on immigration, he's probably one of the only ones that could take the heat politically and still survive, but actually get something done on immigration. That hasn't panned out so far, but it's also true that he could take the heat on this from the right if he chooses to lead on it. The bump stock things, I think, is a little strange. I mean, that was October 2nd. That was that shooting. And the Justice Department, his Justice Department, has said that they can't do anything about it until there is action in Congress. So I think the direction today, unless something has changed, was a little bit misplaced.
And Greg, one last thing is Charles Schumer, the Democrats' leader in the Senate, says, oh, but, Trump is talking a good game, but he's cutting the budgets for 2 programs that will allow us to better record people with criminal records in the database. Is that a fair argument?
I don't know. It's the first I've heard of it, so I will have to go back and read about it. My concern is the trust quotient, which brought up before. What Jesse said is correct. We sat here and we offered at least 6 practical solutions that I think everybody could agree on. And as far as I can tell, people that have watched that show, that's the first time on television that they've actually heard practical solutions from the most vocal sides of this debate. You don't hear practical solutions. The reason is, and I go back to this, the trust quotient. If you say sensible gun laws, the others say you're taking my guns. If I say I want my gun rights, you call me a killer. So I think the protests are real and they're symbolic. There is a rational reason for them. However, going back to the trust quotient, you got to beware if other groups co-opt your protest. When far-left groups get involved with other groups and it becomes more of an activist meme, a resist meme, it becomes something about Trump and not about this kind of violence, what you're going to lose the trust quotient again. And that means people are going to say, as Rush said, oh, it's just another Democrat rally. So you have to make sure that you maintain an independence. If you're a protester, you have to maintain an independence about your specific issue. Do not let other, I know the Women's March is going to get involved. You're going to have Linda Sarsour there. Yeah. Is this going to help you? I don't know.
So that's a great point. I understand why Rush says that, because you don't have CNN doing a town hall with all the friends and family of Kate Steinle. And you don't have their friends and family out there holding rallies and saying, we need border security, we have to defund sanctuary cities. The mainstream media only gets involved with these issues when it can serve their policy purposes, and that's why there's a lot of distrust.
Well, I think you make good points, because 95% of Americans favor stronger background checks. Ahead, a surprise career change for Oscar winner Jennifer Lawrence. She's quitting acting, for a while anyway, to fix our democracy. That's next.